you Golden Eagles. You're listening to Southern Miss Today on Southern Miss Radio. I'm your Tuesday, Thursday show host, Skylar Angus Barker. We've got a great show coming up with some information about Marshall Bowen, explaining how he learned more about studying paintings at the museums than attending classes. And Kaylin Fox Thomas reporting on the DEI ban. And don't touch that dial because Monica Ferguson will share some things that you don't want to miss. You're listening to Southern Miss Today on Southern Miss Radio.
Sponsorship for Southern Miss Today comes from Mississippi Beverages. Mississippi Beverages provides water coolers, and coffee service throughout South Mississippi. Take half of your weight in pounds. That's how many ounces of water you need a day. Mississippi Beverages can help you reach that goal by delivering fresh water to your door. To get more information or to set up a cooler and water delivery, you can call Mississippi Beverages at 601-271-2420, or you can find them online.
I'm Chris Jakovic. I served in the United States Air Force and I deployed 3 times. So in 2017, I was serving as an Air Force First Sergeant. Our motto in that role is my job is people, everyone is my business. But unfortunately in that year, I would lose my own brother, Lance Corporal Adam Jakovic, to suicide. The majority of veteran suicides are from guns. I store my weapons securely, not only for myself, but for my family. Store all your guns securely. Help stop suicide. My service never stops.
Brought to you by End Family Fire and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to Southern Miss Today on Southern Miss Radio. In USM campus news, Southern Miss to hold spring commencement ceremonies May 8th to May 10th. You've heard that right. Time really does fly. The University of Southern Mississippi will conduct its spring 2025 commencement May 8th to May 10th. It will be held at Bernard Reed Green Coliseum in Hattiesburg in Mississippi Gulf Coast Coliseum in Biloxi. In a surprising turn of events, the total number of degree candidates for this semester stands at precisely 2,025. The schedule goes as follows. Thursday, May 8th, 5 p.m., Bernard Reed Green Coliseum. All Hattiesburg campus doctoral, specialist, and master's degree candidates. Friday, May 9th, 9 a.m., Bernard Reed Green Coliseum. All Hattiesburg campus undergraduate degree candidates in the College of Arts and Sciences and the College of Nursing and Health Professions. Friday, May 9th, 2 p.m., Bernard Reed Green Coliseum. All Hattiesburg campus undergraduate degree candidates in the College of Business and Economic Development and the College of Education and Human Sciences. Saturday, May 10th, 3 p.m., Mississippi Gulf Coast Coliseum, all Gulf Park campus doctoral, specialist, master's, and undergraduate degree candidates. We hope to see you there. In Mississippi news, Miss Mississippi's Teen 2025 is crowned in Vicksburg. A new Miss Mississippi's Teen was crowned Sunday in Vicksburg. Avery McNair, a senior who is graduating from Simpson Academy, will be representing the state of Mississippi at Miss America's Teen. McNair goes on to say this about her accomplishments. You never think it's going to be you. And then I finally got my opportunity, and I wanted to embrace every single thing. And I'm just so blessed to be here. When asked about her Share with Service initiative, she said this. I partnered with the Mississippi Emergency Management Agency my last 2 years of competing. My first house was hit by an EF2 tornado, and then we were hit again 5 years later, and that destroyed that same house. And so I learned from those experiences that I not only want to change lives, but save them. Also in Mississippi news, new motion filed in Carly Gregg appeal. If you haven't heard, Carly Gregg was charged with the murder of her mother and sentenced to life in prison in September 2024. According to James Murphy, Gregg's new attorney, some orders relating to mental evaluations were entered into the county court before Gregg was indicted into circuit court. Murphy states that he wants to make sure that they are in the record in case they are needed to support their arguments. He goes on to state this about said orders. Those orders were made part of the interlocutory appeal, and so by including the entire interlock record, it will become part of this direct appeal record. The The new motion states that these documents are necessary for a full and complete understanding of the procedural and substantive history of the case and are material to the proper resolution of the appeal. In national news, fired Disney employee gets 3 years in prison for hacking and changing menus. You've heard that right. A former Disney employee has hacked into the company's servers to alter its restaurant menus, including altering allergen information and printing profane language. Michael Schur, a Florida resident, was sentenced last week to 3 years in prison, as well as ordered to pay nearly $690,000 in restitution. David Haas, Schur's lawyer, goes on to state this. Schur remains remorseful and apologetic to his former coworkers. We are grateful that the judge heard all of our arguments in mitigation when fashioning a sentence that was half of what the government was seeking. Michael Schur worked as a menu production manager for Disney and was fired last June for misconduct, according to the original complaint. Disney were able to identify and remove all altered menus before they were shipped to restaurants. We'll be right back with sports and weather after a word from our sponsors.
Sponsorship for Southern Miss Today comes from Mr. Sippy Beverages. Mr. Sippy Beverages provides water, water coolers, and coffee service throughout South Mississippi. Take half of your weight in pounds. That's how many ounces of water you need a day. Mr. Sippy Beverages can help you reach that goal by delivering fresh water to your door. To get more information or to set up a cooler and water delivery, you can call Mr. Sippy Beverages at 601-271-2420, or you can find them online. Sponsorship comes from American Graphics. Located at 8 Commercial Warehouse Drive in Hattiesburg, American Graphics provides custom screen printing and embroidery. They can be reached by phone at 601-602-2277. And the website is goamericangraphics.com. American Graphics, printing at its finest.
Welcome back to Southern Miss Today on Southern Miss Radio. Now for your sports. 3 homers lift baseball to 7-6 victory to complete 3-game sweep at App State. Number 22, Southern Miss homered 3 times, including a 3-run shot from Drew Barrett, to defeat App State 7-6 Sunday afternoon at Smith Stadium to complete a 3-game Sun Belt Conference sweep. The Golden Eagles won for the 5th straight time while recording their 2nd league road sweep this season. The Mountaineers fell to 21-22 and 11-10 in league play. Softball's comeback falls short in series finale against App State. Southern Miss softball rallied late into Sunday's series finale against App State, but ultimately fell short, dropping a 3-2 decision at the Southern Miss softball complex. Despite the loss, the Golden Eagles capped their home slate with a 16-10 record, marking the program's most home wins since 2019. Southern Miss has extended their home winning record streak to 4 seasons, a feat last accomplished from 2003 to 2006. Southern Miss Athletics has an announcement. Baseball student tickets are now available to be claimed for tonight's midweek game in the series this weekend versus New Orleans in Arkansas State. Make sure to claim your tickets as soon as possible. To keep up with all the Golden Eagles sports activities, head on over to southernmiss.com. Now on for your weather. We had some fog earlier this morning, and we're going to be mostly cloudy weather today. Highs are in the upper 80s. Over the night, we're experiencing mostly cloudy and mild weather with lows in the mid-60s. It looks like it may rain on Thursday, so keep an eye out for that. It is currently 84 degrees, with our humidity at a whopping 55%, and our wind is moving at 8 miles per hour. Up next, we have Marshall Bolden explaining how he learned more from studying paintings at the museums than attending class. Check it out.
This is Mississippi Moments, produced by the Center for Oral History and Cultural Heritage at the University of Southern Mississippi and supported by the Mississippi Humanities Council. I'm Bill Ellison. Marshall Bolden left Clarksdale in 1939 to attend the Art Institute of Chicago. He felt he learned more by studying the museum's paintings than he did by attending class.
I wanted to be an artist ever since I can remember. And it was the only thing I ever wanted to really be. I finished up my high school education in Clarksdale. From then I went to the Art Institute of Chicago. So I went to art school for a year and a half. I really didn't learn too much as an artist there, except the greatest thing was that the school of the Art Institute is in the basement of the Museum of the Art Institute. And that was the biggest thing that ever happened to me in my life, because every day at noon, man, I couldn't wait to rush upstairs. I'd eat my sandwich as fast as I could, and I'd walk the hall, see. I would go in and be with these paintings until the museum closed. And just being with the great art like that got into me. And then along came the Second World War, and I had to quit school. And after the war, I wanted to be an artist, and I wanted to be an illustrator like Norman Rockwell. So I went back again to Chicago and apprenticed for a commercial studio.
Bill Ellison hosts Voices of Our People World War II, a new podcast from Mississippi Moments, sponsored by the Mississippi Humanities Council. That's Voices of Our People World War II, wherever you get your podcasts.
That was Marshall Bolden. Coming up, we've got a special guest that you don't want to miss.
Sponsorship for Southern Miss Today comes from Mississippi Beverages. Mississippi Beverages provides water, water coolers, and coffee service throughout South Mississippi. Take half of your weight in pounds. That's how many ounces of water you need a day. Mississippi Beverages can help you reach that goal by delivering fresh water to your door. To get more information or to set up a cooler and water delivery, you can call Mississippi Beverages at 601-271-2420, or you can find them online.
What is dedication?
My daughter is biological and my son is adopted. I love them both so much. From the morning when you wake up to putting them to bed at night and every moment in between. I think a parent's job is to protect our children, but also prepare them for the world so they become good, kind human beings.
That's dedication. Find out more at fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to Southern Miss Today on Southern Miss Radio. Now, please give a warm Golden Eagle welcome to Monica Ferguson. Hey, how are you?
Great, great. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah.
So, first and foremost, for anyone who doesn't know you, can you tell us about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. I am a licensed master social worker. I'm a therapist, essentially, here in town at a brand new practice that opened up just almost a year ago called Counseling Associates of Hattiesburg, downtown.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
And I understand that you mentioned that you were a licensed master social worker. Can you tell us more in detail about what that is?
Yeah, absolutely. Because actually, a lot of people haven't heard of that. A lot of times, as far as therapists go, some people have heard of LPCs, which is licensed professional counselor, or LMFTs, which is licensed marriage family therapist,
right?
Which actually are both programs here. But there's also another path, which is through social work. There's a clinical social work. So a lot of people think of social workers as just doing case management or possibly working with CPS and things like that in families. Yeah. But there's actually a clinical path also that actually is mental health focused.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
And how would you say about your experience being a social worker? Is it like, do you have those like highs and do you have the lows, or is it kind of more like a stable progression that you go through?
In my work as a social worker, essentially? Yeah. It's definitely like any experience, really, especially when you're dealing with people and their stories and their experiences. And when I'm in a room with somebody, I pretty much do individual therapy. Yeah. And so I am kind of the anchor that I'm there, right? So I don't go up and down as much. I can meet them where they're at. But as far as me personally, right, that's also part of my commitment just to myself to maintain, right, like some. But yeah, I'm dealing with a lot of people's highs and lows every day. But it's beautiful because I get to kind of be that, a little bit of that calm source, right? Yeah, that they get to sit with that through. Yeah,
absolutely.
I don't know if that answers that question.
No,
but
yeah,
that's
it's
what
very
comes to mind.
beautiful.
Yeah,
it's very powerful.
Yeah,
because like mental health is something that can always be like, when it comes to the person individually, it can almost feel like a calamity. It can almost feel like this powerful thing that like they don't know where to go and they don't know what to do. And it's just this overpowering feeling. But whenever you get that help, either from your friends and your families, but especially professionals, you can actually like quell that down and be able to not look at it in a way where it's like this over like powerful beast that is like taking over your life, but something that you can work alongside with.
Oh, absolutely. And that's essentially a lot of what I do. And sometimes therapy can get a little, sometimes people come in and they're looking for like advice or
Yeah.
what to do, right? So that doesn't feel so big, or even in life decisions, right?
Right.
And what we find is that really when we sit with folks and we help them kind of not have that big sense of overwhelm, because actually even in our brains and nervous systems, that overwhelm is almost kind of like it feels really real and really big, but it's
Yeah.
actually not completely true, right? It's trying to protect you by saying like, oh, this is really scary. You need to get really overwhelmed so you can, stay small or something along those lines. But really, most people have like an inner self that actually kind of knows what they need, knows how to heal, and so we just come alongside the journey, right, and helping them kind of witness that and find that within themselves.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's so beautiful and that's so powerful.
Yeah.
So I understand that you're also part of the Counseling Associates of New London. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, that's a great question because it can be very confusing, frankly.
Yeah.
I'm actually part of a large group practice, a multi-site practice out of New Hampshire. The connection there, like what's the Mississippi connection there, is my clinical director, Casey Graben, is actually a USM alum also.
Okay.
And from Mississippi and from the area, worked on the coast, and as a lot of people do, decided to try something new and moved out to the east.
Yeah.
Loved this company working for them. COVID happened, family things happened, so moved home as soon as COVID and shut down, and did remote telehealth the entire time. We do offer those services, and it became the only way. And through that time, really realized wanted to stay home, right? But really love this company, and they're very on mission for providing accessible, quality, compassionate mental health care.
Yeah.
And so they said, I think there's a need for that in Mississippi. So
Absolutely.
why don't you stay there and we'll open up a Mississippi branch. So it's our first out-of-state location.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's really cool. I understand that you have an expertise in anxiety, depression, and trauma. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely just part of unfortunately, a lot of general human experience right now. Just a lot of people experience anxiety, depression, and trauma of various forms, and chronic stress as well. And working with that, I mean, those are kind of the things that everybody typically thinks if I'm going to go to therapy for.
Yeah.
For me, it's usually the type of work that I do. It's a lot of holding space for noticing. I bring the body into the work, into how they experience their anxiety, how they're experiencing depression, and what the body kind of integrates into it instead of just the cognitive. Because sometimes we forget that we have the rest of our body.
Yeah.
We can stay in this like mental gymnastics game that actually can either sometimes deepen depression or actually increase our anxiety.
Yeah.
And so that's a little bit of the work that I do in those specific areas with anxiety, depression, and trauma. But that is definitely the majority of the work that I do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's something that's very like powerful to be able to be on the front lines of actually making sure that the person can like walk out of a session feeling better than they were before, but also making sure that they have new skills that they can use to tackle these concepts. And it's powerful. And we talked earlier about that you have some unique specializations with somatic experiencing, EMDR, and internal family systems. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a really unique for me personally, and I'm thrilled that our practice can offer this. We have several practitioners who offer EMDR, which is eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. I even have a hard time saying that.
Yeah.
And that's really a brain-based therapy. It's not real talk-based. It's dealing with actually reprocessing your neural networks with negative cognitions to positive ones.
Okay.
Usually there's some type of bilateral stimulation with either tappers or little buzzers in your hands, or even a light bar or a bar that you follow.
Yeah.
And it was founded really just out of walking. Shapiro, the very initial, realized that, for example, like if you need to process something, a lot of us go for walks, and all of a sudden there's some revelation and things can happen. There's been a lot of research around it, but it's really great because it's you can process much quicker, and you don't have to relive your experiences. So it's not like just telling everything that's happened to you. And somatic experiencing is a unique approach that I'm one of the very few in the entire state that offers this. I'm about halfway through a 3-year program, and that's a body-based approach through the nervous system and how just our physiology is holding information. that I bring into the room when we're doing the work, and
Right.
people really can process that. You probably heard of fight, flight, freeze, things like that.
Yeah.
And so I acknowledge that in their experience. And then internal family systems is a really, really, it's not new. There's a lot of things that aren't really new, right? They've just been kind of rebranded. But Dick Schwartz has created this model, and it's really powerful. I'm finding it's also mind and body, and it really makes sense. Like we might say, like, oh, the part of me is really excited that the semester's over,
Yeah.
and then a part of me might be like, oh, I'm going to kind of miss seeing my people every day, right? And so we talk this language. There's parts of us, right? And so we take those different parts of us and kind of get to know them and look at them from like a compassionate spot,
Yeah.
even like that critical inner one that says like, you know, all the bad things that sometimes our thoughts have.
Yeah.
And we're finding what he approached was that all of those different parts of ourselves are actually good, that they have good intention. And so even this like critical stuff that comes on, it's actually to protect us possibly. So we have parts of ourselves that are here to protect us, parts of us that are actually from heal or from pain or from hurt. And this model actually approaches where we're kind of coming from inside. There's actually a self inside that the relationship with that part, with compassion and courage, can really create some amazing space and healing for folks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I know that I've said it before, but it's so powerful and so beautiful what you do, because like I'm also a person that suffers from mental health. I have depression and I have anxiety, and I've got some others that might not be able to be talking on radio, but it's so wonderful the work that you're doing, because like the biggest thing that I've noticed personally when it comes to these disorders is that it's so easy to feel alone. It's so easy to feel like you're in your own bubble, and like no matter, even if you try to reach out to people, it just doesn't feel like you're connecting with them in that like proper personal way. It feels like you're almost like behind a screen doing it.
That's a great image, like behind a screen. Yeah. And that's probably really, and I'm glad to even have these moments, these conversations, because that alone feeling, right, is part of not only our internal dialogue, right, kind of telling us that we're alone, but it's also culturally, right? Like here, like being able to come and see somebody like me, or go over to student services or to student counseling services here and be vulnerable, right? And say these things that we're thinking or we're experiencing or our symptoms. And it's such a relief when you hear, you know, someone say like, oh, you know, that I'm not the only one, right? I'm not crazy. I'm not all these things. Even sometimes, you know, there's even this word disorder I feel real uncomfortable with, but we have this big blue book called the DSM, right? Which is our diagnostic manual that has these things in it, like depression, major depressive disorder, general anxiety disorder, bipolar. But really part of that, it's beautiful because I can take that and you can look at that and go like, oh, so many people have had to experience what I'm experiencing, that there has to be this whole researched amazing manual, right, for us to understand, right, because there's so many of us, as well as, right, that's really there just for modern medicine and the business of medicine, right, because really they're not disorders, right, they're human experiences of things that have happened to us and how our minds and bodies have had to cope with those experiences, whether it's genetic, whether it's our experiences with our family systems or things that have happened to us. They're not disorders.
I love that. I love that so much. Just a quick question, without breaking any type of like patient confidentiality or anything like that. What does a typical appointment look like for you?
Oh, that's a great question, especially with the type of work I do, because my typical appointment probably looks a little different than some folks. So if you've never been to therapy before, I can destigmatize a little bit. There's generally like a very initial period of just getting to know you. And so it's a little more questions, like kind of just getting to know your history and where you come from and what you like and what kind of makes you feel great. Because we all have those things, right? We have things that we love to do, right? If we're maybe not doing them as much as we like right now. And my typical session, they're usually anywhere from 50 minutes to an hour is what a typical session, the length. And I typically start my sessions, because I'm so nervous system based and really trying to bring the body into the room. I always pretty much start with something I call, I don't call it, but it's orientating, where it's really kind of letting your brain catch up to your space. So even right now, even if we like slowly look around this room as data, because the whole time I haven't looked behind me, right? You haven't looked behind you, but there's windows behind you. There's a wall behind you, but your brain doesn't completely know. So even right now, you're a little bit alert, even though you don't realize it. And so when we start with that, it kind of brings us settling. that your brain brings in that information to be like, oh, I'm safe and okay.
Yeah.
And you can feel shoulders drop, breath deepens, you sink into the chair a little bit more. And then there's a little more space, right, for what needs to come into the room. So that's what I usually start with. And then depending on what we're working with, really one of my personal spaces is that we never go too far. Like I tell people, I don't throw them in the deep end, right? Like we tip our toe in, and because that's all your system needs is we just have to tip a toe in that experience or what's happening for you, and then we bring back into something that's more calm and neutral, because we're teaching the body and the brain that we can do that. We have the capacity to go back and forth, because what we've learned is we get into these pathways and these patterns that we can only stay in, right? Really, really wound up, or really, really collapsed and depressed. And our brain has kind of forgotten that we can come out from. So I do a lot of that, kind of go back and forth. So it's not an hour of just being deep in, the hard. Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's too much for our systems. We don't,
Absolutely.
that's not helpful,
Yeah,
actually.
it's overwhelming.
Yeah, it's overwhelming. And actually, if you go to therapy and actually just kind of dump everything, we find there's actually a little bit of a dopamine release with that.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, I feel really good for like a day.
Yeah.
And they're like, wait, it's all back. That felt really good to do that, but it didn't really change the pattern in your body and your brain.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I have one final question before we potentially close out.
Absolutely.
Where can people book an appointment with
Oh,
you?
yeah, absolutely. So we're online. It's www.ca-mh.com. So imagine the Counseling Associates Mental Health, right?
Yeah.
And in there, you'll see, you just click Mississippi. You can book appointment and click Mississippi, because we have the 2 states, right? Or the easiest thing to get us directly is our phone number, which is 601-699-4080. And you can just call, say you'd like to request a month. We take most insurances. We also have reduced, really accessible cash pay rates.
Yeah.
Personally, for right now, I'm able to offer intakes at $70 a session, and actual sessions for $50 a session.
Wow.
Yeah. For folks who are uninsured, or there's an insurance that, I personally don't take. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. They're really committed to making sure that people get the care that they need.
I love that. I love that so much. Well, thank you so much, Monica Ferguson, for coming on today and providing a voice for Eagles.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Thanks for the invite.
Coming up, we've got Kaylin Fox-Thomas reporting on the DEI ban. Check it out.
As DEI bans get passed in Mississippi, unions like the United Campus Workers advocate for change. Gavin Wallace, a current union and staff member here at USM, explains how being in it allows him to speak up for larger issues.
So I joined United Campus Workers as a graduate student. This has really been a great outlet for me to work towards bettering something. Working with UCW on this march and this campaign, and like all the other campaigns we're working on right now, has really been fulfilling for me in the way that it helps me feel active and not feel frozen. And I actually feel like I'm doing something and making a change and having an impact on the world around me.
Union worker and protest organizer Patricia McCourt explains what the union does and how people can become members.
United Campus Workers is a wall-to-wall labor union. By wall-to-wall, we mean that we represent every job class at the university. So in order to join, you can just go to ucwms.org/join. And we have lots of information on our website.
With union chapters nationwide, United Campus Workers advocates for living wages for all workers, including graduate students and non-tenure track professors. Kaylin Fox-Thomas, SMTV.
Thanks for listening to Southern Miss Today on Southern Miss Radio. Huge thanks to Seb Hodges, our audio engineer, and Meadow Smith, our video engineer, for keeping this bird flying. Big shout out to our assistant producer, Sam Romeo, and our program director, Adeline Fields, as well as our executive producer, Ori Ide, and our GM, Dr. Wilbur Martin. Don't forget to follow SM2 Media on social media. I'm your Tuesday, Thursday show host, Scott.